From a meeting of fire and ice, a being was born, a giant so powerful that even the gods feared him. To create the world, they would have to kill him, and from his death, our universe would rise. This is the entire timeline of Norse mythology. Before time itself, there was nothing, not silence as we know it, but a deeper void, Ginnungagap, the yawning emptiness. On one side, Niflheim, a land of endless ice and mist. On the other, Muspelheim, a realm of fire and blazing heat. For ages, frost and flame kept their distance, until at last they touched. Ice began to melt, droplets shimmering in the darkness. And from those first drops, life began. A great giant Ymir came into being, vast and heavy, his breath deep and slow. He slumbered in the void, cradled by darkness. From his sweat and his limbs, other beings formed, the frost giants, ancient and strong, who would one day fill the edges of the world with their towering presence. But Ymir was not alone in his awakening. Alongside him appeared a gentle cow, Audhumla, born from the same mingling of frost and flame. Her hide gleamed like snow in moonlight, and from her teats flowed rivers of sweet milk. This milk nourished Ymir, keeping him alive in the endless emptiness. Audhumla herself fed by licking the salty ice, slowly revealing another form hidden within the frozen walls of Ginnungagap. Day by day, with each tender stroke of her tongue, the ice receded, and from within emerged Buri, tall and strong, the first of the gods. From Buri came Bor, and from Bor came 3 sons, Odin, Vili, and Vi. Time, though still without measure, began to take its first steps. And so, the story of the gods began to unfold. The 3 brothers, Odin, Vili, and Vi, looked upon Ymir, the great giant, and they knew that his vastness held the seed of a world not yet born. With solemn purpose, they rose against him. The clash was mighty. When Ymir fell, his blood poured out like endless rivers, flowing across the emptiness. These rivers filled Ginnungagap, becoming the seas and oceans that now lap gently against every shore. From his flesh, the brothers shaped the earth firm and wide. His bones became mountains, rising slowly into the clouds. His teeth and broken fragments of bone were scattered, forming cliffs and stones. They lifted his great skull and placed it above as a dome, creating the sky. To hold it in place, they set 4 dwarves at the corners of the world, naming them North, South, East, and West. And from Ymir's fiery hair, they wove the trees and forests. Still, the sky was empty and dark. So Odin, Vili, and Vi caught sparks that had flown from Muspelheim, setting them in the heavens as stars. Some burned bright, some faint, and together they made constellations that would guide sailors and dreamers alike. The sun and moon were also set to sail across the sky, drawn by chariots that glided ceaselessly, marking the rhythm of day and night. Thus, from the body of a giant, the brothers shaped the world Midgard, the middle realm, destined to be the dwelling place of humankind. They encircled it with Ymir's eyebrows, forming a protective wall against the chaos that dwelled beyond. And so, the empty void had become a living world, a place where rivers flowed softly, winds whispered across meadows, and the stars shimmered in endless night. Yet still the earth was quiet. No footsteps stirred the grass. No voices sang beneath the stars. That too was soon to change. One day, as Odin, Vili, and Vi walked along the shore, they found 2 fallen trees. One was ash, the other elm, lying quietly among the sand and seaweed. The brothers looked upon them and felt the stirrings of creation once more. Odin bent low and gave them the gift of breath, filling their wooden forms with life. Vili granted them mind and movement, shaping thought and will. Ve bestowed upon them senses, speech, and the beauty of form. And so, from driftwood the first humans were born. The man they named Ask, and the woman Embla. Together, they became the ancestors of humankind, living beneath the wide sky, within the shelter of Midgard. As Midgard took shape, so too did the dwelling places of the divine. High above, in the heavens, the Aesir raised Asgard, a stronghold of shining walls and towering halls. At its heart was Valhalla, Odin's great hall, whose roof gleamed like gold. Within, warriors chosen by the All-Father would one day gather, feasting beneath banners that fluttered like gentle winds through a dream. Each god and goddess built their own hall, each with its own beauty and peace. Frigg, Odin's wife, presided in Fensler, a hall of quiet waters and tender wisdom. Thor, the Thunderer, dwelt in Bilskirner, a hall with 540 rooms, vast as storm clouds drifting across the horizon. But the Aesir were not the only family of gods. Far to the east dwelt the Vanir, deities of nature and plenty, guardians of fertility, fields and seas. Where the Aesir were strong in war and rule, the Vanir were keepers of life cycles, sowing, reaping, and the mysteries of growth. Inevitably, discord arose between them. A war of gods unfolded. No side could claim victory. And so, weary of strife, the Aesir and Vanir made peace. As a token of truce, the families exchanged members. From the Vanir came Jord, god of the sea, with his children Freyr and Freya. From the Aesir went wise figures in return. Thus the two families were bound, not by conquest, but by accord. And for a time harmony reigned, as steady and calm as the gentle lapping of waves upon the shore. The world was far greater than Asgard and Midgard alone. All existence was woven together upon the branches and roots of Yggdrasil, the great world tree. Its trunk was strong and eternal, and upon it rested the fates of gods, giants, men, and all creatures. At its highest boughs rested Asgard, the realm of the Aesir. Below it lay Midgard, the world of humankind, encircled by oceans and guarded against chaos. Farther still was Jotunheim, land of the frost giants, wild and untamed, where mountains loomed like sleeping titans. Deep in the roots was Niflheim, a realm of ice and shadow, where rivers of venom flowed and the dragon Nidhogg gnawed ceaselessly at Yggdrasil's root. Opposite it was Muspelheim, a land of fire, ever glowing with heat, home to the fire giant Searcher, who watched with flaming sword in hand. There was Alfheim, where the light elves dwelt in radiant meadows, and Svartalfheim, the shadowed land of dwarves, master craftsmen beneath the earth. Vanaheim held the Vanir, serene and fertile, while Helheim, ruled by Hel, daughter of Loki, lay shrouded in quiet, where the dead dwelled who knew not battle or glory. Thus were the 9 realms held within Yggdrasil's embrace, each realm connected by hidden paths, each one a thread in the great tapestry of being. And though Yggdrasil was mighty, it was not without peril. From below, Nidhogg gnawed, while deer grazed upon its leaves, and a squirrel named Ratatoskr carried bitter words from root to crown. Yet still the tree stood, strong and unyielding, a symbol of endurance, of life's eternal cycle. And so the ages unfolded, gently, like the turning of a page. The gods walked their halls, shaping the fates of worlds. Odin, ever seeking wisdom, gave one of his eyes at Mimir's well, to drink from its deep waters of knowledge. Thor, strong and steadfast, lifted his hammer Mjolnir, protector of gods and men alike. Freya, radiant and graceful, moved among her people with laughter and sorrow in equal measure, her tears of gold falling like droplets of sunlight. Loki, too, dwelled among the Aesir, clever, cunning, and unpredictable. Sometimes friend, sometimes trickster, his path wound like a serpent through the tales of gods, bringing both laughter and grief. Odin, the seeker of wisdom. Odin, All-Father, ruler of Asgard, was not only a god of power but of restless seeking. He longed for wisdom, for knowledge that lay beyond even the reach of gods. In the quiet shadows of Yggdrasil's roots lay Mimir's well, a deep spring filled with the waters of understanding. To drink from it was to know secrets of past, present, and future. But the gift came at a price. Odin approached and gazed into the still water. It reflected the stars, the roots of the tree, and his own searching face. Mimir, guardian of the well, demanded a sacrifice. Without hesitation, Odin plucked out one of his own eyes and set it in the water. The ripples spread softly, and the well accepted the offering. And so Odin drank, gaining wisdom that weighed upon him as much as it guided him. With only one eye, he saw deeper than most with two. From then on, his gaze carried the burden of knowledge, of all that must come, and all that must end. Later still, Odin sought yet more understanding. He climbed upon Yggdrasil itself, hanging from its branches without food or drink, pierced by his own spear. For 9 long nights he remained there, swaying gently in the winds of eternity, until at last, the runes revealed themselves to him, shapes of power and meaning, keys to magic and fate. When at last he stepped down, he bore not only scars, but the wisdom of runes, gifts that would shape the songs and spells of ages to come. Thor, protector of Midgard. Thor, son of Odin, was mightiest among the gods in strength. Yet though he was fierce in battle, his heart was often gentle toward humankind. He was their protector, their shield against the giants who dwelled beyond Midgard's borders. In his hand he carried Mjolnir, a hammer that roared with thunder and flashed with lightning. When he cast it into the sky, storms rolled and rain fell upon the earth, feeding the fields and rivers. Yet his hammer was not only a weapon, it was a blessing. With it, he consecrated marriages, protected homes, and brought fertility to the land. Thor traveled often to Jotunheim, realm of the giants, where challenges awaited him like looming mountains. In one tale, he was tricked into drinking from a horn that seemed never to empty, but in truth, it was filled with the sea itself. Thor drank deeply, and though he could not finish, the waters of the ocean sank and tides receded. His effort etched forever into the world's rhythm. In another tale, he sought to lift a great cat, only to find that it was no cat at all, but the Midgard serpent Jormungandr coiled around the earth. He strained and managed to lift it just enough that one of its paws left the ground, and the giants who watched trembled at his strength. Yet despite his might, Thor was never without laughter. He rode across the skies in a chariot pulled by 2 goats, Tangrasnir and Tangjostr, whose hooves sparked lightning as they struck the clouds. At night, he could slaughter them for a meal, and in the morning, with a wave of his hammer, restore them to life again. Then there was Loki, a figure of shifting shapes and shifting loyalties. Born of giants, yet counted among the Aesir, he was clever beyond measure, his tongue quick with words that could charm or wound. Loki's nature was restless, unpredictable as fire. Sometimes his cleverness saved the gods. When the builder of Asgard's wall demanded the sun, moon, and Freya as payment, Loki devised a trick, luring away the builder's mighty horse and ensuring the work could not be finished. At other times, his mischief caused grief, stirring quarrels and setting fate upon darker paths. Loki could change his form at will, into salmon slipping through rivers, into a mare that bore a strange and wondrous child, the eight-legged horse Sleipnir, whom Odin would one day ride across the worlds. His stories dance between laughter and shadow, always weaving unpredictability into the lives of gods and men. Yet even in his trickery, there was an uneasy beauty, like the flicker of firelight on a cold night, warming, dangerous, and impossible to look away from. Freya the Radiant. Freya, goddess of love, beauty, and seer, the ancient magic of fate. She rode in a chariot drawn by cats, her cloak of falcon feathers carrying her through the skies. Her hall, Sessrumnir, was spacious and welcoming, filled with half the warriors who fell in battle, for while Odin chose half for Valhalla, Freya claimed the other half for her own. She wept tears of gold, each one shining like sunlight on water. Her necklace, Brisingamen, crafted by dwarves, gleamed with unmatched beauty. Yet her stories are not only of grace and charm, but of resilience and depth. She knew longing, loss, and the heavy weight of choices. Freya's power was in her heart's duality, in beauty and strength, in desire and sorrow, in wisdom and mystery. To speak her name was to think of both tenderness and steel, as inseparable as night and stars. Thus the gods lived and moved within their realms. Their stories unfolded like waves upon the sea, some playful, some sorrowful, some heavy with the inevitability of what must come. And as the ages passed, gently unfolding, all these tales wove together into the greater tapestry that led toward fate's horizon. And so, the story drifts onward. Among the Aesir, there was one whose presence brought light and peace wherever he walked. His name was Baldur, son of Odin and Frigg. Fair of face, radiant in spirit, he was beloved by all. His laughter was gentle, his words kind, and even the flowers seemed to bloom brighter in his passing. Baldur's dreams, however, grew troubled. Each night he saw shadows of his own death, images that weighed upon his heart. When he told the gods, sorrow filled Asgard, for none could imagine the world without him. Frigg, his mother, could not bear the thought. With patient care, she journeyed through all the realms, asking every creature, every plant, every stone, every sickness, every fire, every metal, to swear an oath never to harm her son. And all did so, moved by her plea, or almost all. For one small plant, the mistletoe, seemed too young and fragile to be asked, and Frigg passed it by. Relieved, the gods made sport of Baldur's invulnerability. In the shining courts of Asgard, they cast stones and spears at him, loosed arrows, and struck him with axes. Yet every weapon fell harmless, bouncing away as though striking air. Baldur laughed, and the gods laughed with him, their joy echoing like music across the halls. But Loki watched. Loki, whose heart burned with restlessness and cunning, saw what others did not. He slipped away, and in the quiet woods he found the young sprig of mistletoe, pale and delicate, growing unnoticed. With careful hands he plucked it and shaped it into a dart, small and sharp. Returning to the hall, Loki approached Hoder, Baldur's blind brother, who had stood aside while others played. "Why do you not join the game?" Loki asked softly. Hoder answered, "Because I cannot see, and I have no weapon to throw." Smiling, Loki placed the dart in Hoder's hand, guiding his aim. "Here," he whispered, "I will help you." With a gentle throw, Hoder cast the dart. It flew silently across the hall and struck Baldur. In an instant, the joy was shattered. The mistletoe pierced him, and Baldur fell, his light dimming like the setting sun. Silence filled Asgard. The gods stood still, their laughter frozen upon their lips, their hearts struck with disbelief. Frigg wept, her tears falling like rain upon stone. Odin bowed his head, heavy with the knowledge that even he could not turn aside the wheel of fate. The gods carried Baldur's body to the great sea, laying him upon his ship, Ringhorny. They placed treasures around him, tokens of love and honor, and prepared to set the ship aflame. Yet the vessel was so vast that none could move it. Only when the giantess Hyrroken came, riding upon a wolf with serpents for reins, did the ship shift into the waves. With a single push, she sent it forth, the timbers groaning as though in sorrow. The pyre was lit, and flames rose high, crackling softly against the sea wind. Nanna, Baldur's wife, overcome with grief, cast herself upon the fire to follow him into the beyond. The smoke drifted upward, carrying Baldur's light into the sky, while the sea whispered below as though mourning. Yet the gods were not willing to let him go without hope. They sent Hermod, Odin's swift son, to ride Sleipnir into Helheim, the realm of the dead. Downward he traveled, through shadowed valleys and rivers cold as silence, until he came before Hel, daughter of Loki, ruler of that place. Hermod begged for Baldur's release, and Hel agreed, but only on one condition: that every living thing in the world must weep for Baldur, showing their sorrow. If all shed tears, she would let him return. And so messengers went forth, and indeed everything wept. The stones, the trees, the animals, the people, all shed tears of grief, all but one. A giantess, thought by some to be Loki in disguise, refused. "Baldur never gave me joy," she said. "Let Hel keep what she has." And so the bargain was broken. Baldur remained in the realm of the dead, his light hidden beneath its shadows, and the gods returned to Asgard heavy with loss. The death of Baldur was the first crack in the bright halls of Asgard. It was a whisper of what must one day come, a shadow upon the horizon of fate. For from this sorrow, the path toward Ragnarok had begun. And though the gods still walked their halls, laughter and song no longer rang as brightly as before. And so, the ages drifted onward, carrying with them both beauty and the slow, gentle approach of twilight. After Baldur's death, silence lingered in Asgard like mist that would not lift. The gods knew the world had shifted, that fate was moving gently but firmly toward an end none could escape. Whispers spread of a prophecy, spoken by seers, sung in the wind through the branches of Yggdrasil. It told of a twilight, a time when bonds would break, when the earth would tremble and the stars themselves would fall. Yet the prophecy was not sudden doom. It was more like the setting of the sun, a slow dimming that led, inevitably, toward night. The signs began quietly. Winters grew longer, harsher, following one after another without the warmth of summer between. This was Fimbulwinter, the Great Winter, when snow fell endlessly and winds howled through empty fields. People struggled, and quarrels rose where once there had been kinship. Brothers turned against brothers, the bonds of family unraveling. In Jotunheim the giants stirred. In Muspelheim, flames leapt higher, as though waiting for a signal. Deep beneath the waves, the Midgard serpent, Jormungandr, shifted in its sleep, its coils stirring the oceans. And far away, Fenrir the wolf, bound in chains forged by dwarves, strained against his fetters, growing larger with each passing year. His breath was fire, his jaws wide enough to swallow the sun. Even the sun and moon, chased eternally across the sky by wolves, grew fearful. For it was said that one day the wolves would catch them, and the heavens would be plunged into darkness. And through it all Loki waited, bound beneath the earth with the entrails of his son, venom dripping upon his face. He writhed in pain, his wife Sigyn catching the drops in a bowl. But when the bowl filled and she turned away to empty it, the venom struck his skin, and his writhing shook the earth with quakes. He waited, patient, for the day his bonds would break. When the appointed time came, the chains snapped, the fetters broke, and the howls of wolves echoed across the 9 realms. The Midgard serpent rose from the sea, waves crashing upon every shore. Fenrir's jaws opened wide, swallowing light, and Loki himself strode free to lead the enemies of the gods. From Muspelheim came Surtur, the fire giant, his sword blazing brighter than the sun. His armies marched across the bridge Bifrost, which arched like a rainbow between the realms. Under their weight, the bridge shattered, its colors falling like shards into the void. Heimdall, guardian of the bridge, lifted his horn, Gjallarhorn, and blew a sound so deep and resonant that it reached every corner of the worlds. The gods heard and knew the time had come. Odin gathered the warriors of Valhalla, the Einherjar, those who had fallen bravely in battle. Their shields shone, their voices rose like a storm, and together they prepared to face the final dawn. Thor lifted Mjolnir, his hammer crackling with thunder. Freyr, though mighty, had given away his sword in days past, and would stand unarmed against the fire giant Surtur. The goddesses watched, steadfast and sorrowful, their hearts heavy with what must be. And so, the field of battle was set. Vigrid, vast beyond measure, stretching farther than sight, where the fate of gods and giants, of men and monsters, would be sealed. The clash came not as a sudden roar, but as a rising tide, unstoppable and immense. Odin rode forth upon Sleipnir, his 8-legged steed, to face Fenrir. The wolf's jaws opened wide, and though Odin fought bravely, he was swallowed whole. Vidar, his silent son, avenged him, pressing a mighty shoe upon Fenrir's jaw and tearing the beast apart. Thor faced the Midgard serpent. The waves crashed, lightning struck, and thunder rolled. He slew the serpent with Mjolnir, but its venom filled the air, and after 9 steps, Thor too fell, his breath quiet at last. Freyr battled Surtur, fire against life, but without his sword he was overcome, his light extinguished in flame. Heimdall and Loki met, and though each struck the other down, their struggle ended in silence, both fallen upon the field. All around, the clash raged, yet it was not chaos. It was the fulfillment of what had always been woven. The end, yes, but also a beginning hidden within. For at last, Surtur raised his burning sword high, and flames consumed the world. Mountains crumbled, seas boiled, and even the stars were swept away, leaving only smoke and silence. And then, stillness. The fire faded, the waves grew calm, the earth lay quiet, as if in deep sleep. What had been was gone, yet in the silence, something gentle stirred. For though Ragnarok was the twilight of the gods, it was not the end of all things. From the smoke and ashes of Ragnarok, silence lingered, vast and deep. The seas had swallowed the land, the stars had fallen from the heavens, and for a time, it seemed as though all was lost. But slowly, softly, the waters receded. From beneath the waves, the earth rose again, green, fresh, renewed. Mountains lifted their peaks, meadows spread wide, and rivers flowed clear as crystal. The sky shone with gentle light, for though the sun had been devoured, her daughter rose in her place, young and radiant, casting warmth upon the reborn world. Where once there had been only fire and ruin, now there was quiet beauty. Trees unfurling their leaves, grass swaying in the breeze, flowers opening as though in greeting to a new dawn. From the shelter of the great world tree Yggdrasil, two human beings emerged. They were Lif and Lifthrasir, life and the lover of life. Hidden safely within the tree's embrace, they had endured the long night of fire and shadow. Now they stepped forth, gazing with wonder at the world renewed. Their footsteps pressed softly into the grass, their voices lifted gently into the air, the first songs of humankind in the age reborn. From them, generations would come, filling the earth once more with laughter, work, and story. And they were not alone. From the ashes, some gods too returned. Balder, bright and beloved, came forth from the realm of the dead, his light shining once more upon the living. Hoder, his brother, was restored as well, reconciled in peace. The sons of Thor lived, carrying Mjolnir anew. Vidar and Vali, Odin's sons, also walked the green meadows, bearing memory and strength into the new age. Together, they would guide the world's renewal, building anew beneath the soft light of the new sun. And so the story circles back as all stories do. From void to birth, from life to loss, from twilight to dawn. The Norse myths remind us that even endings are not final, but part of a greater rhythm. A tide that ebbs and flows, carrying us through shadow into light again. In the quiet of the reborn world, rivers murmur, trees rustle with soft leaves, and the sky glows with peace. No sound of battle lingers now, only the steady heartbeat of life beginning again.